Welcome to the recap of Session 5 of Chicka D&D, a 5e actual play strim, where we put little highlights and recaps up here on YouTube. Our last episode ended with the party deciding that they're spending the night at the hunting outpost, looking to head out the next morning in order to commune with the Dreamweaver. So Drugar wants to kind of scope it out. He's not entirely trusting of everything that's going on here, while Latruda is looking for some pretty people, and Harry is looking to do a little bit of like intelligence gathering. Latruda and Harry head over to the campfire where Basil is cooking up some stew, and there are two ladies sitting around the fire as well. They decide to chat with them a little bit. Meanwhile, Drugar finds one of the guards that is doing a perimeter around the outpost and does a little chatting with him, asking questions about what he should be looking for while he's in the forest so that he can keep himself safe. Not long after this, Laurel shows up with a little bit of a party behind her. Laurel seems to be kind of a leader around the hunting outpost and immediately hones in on the fact that there are new people, as well as the fact that a few of these new people have something a little special about them. She kind of realizes both that Fox is of the Fae, as well as the fact that Harry has been Fae touched in some way. This does lead her to be a little worried about Drugar heading into the forest, so offers him some protection. The party asks Laurel a couple of questions about the Dreamweaver, and she tells them the story of the Dreamweaver and how they became to be an ascended hero. They have their dinner, they sit around the campfire a little bit longer, and then Laurel offers to show them where they'll be staying for the night. In addition to this, she tells them a little bit that she didn't feel comfortable telling in front of the rest of the group. The fact that the enemy from the story was actually fiends, though many are unaware of this. Since night is falling, Harry and Drugar decide to go to bed, while Latruda decides to stay up, goes back to the fire, and chats a bit with Talus, ending up spending the night in her tent. Drugar, still being a little uneasy, gets up to go pee during the middle of the night, but really he just wants to take a look around. He finds nothing different. There's still people on guard, and nothing funky going on. When he gets back to the tent, he decides to wake Harry up and just kind of see if Harry knows anything more about fiends than he does, because Drugar has zero information about this. Harry ends up pranking him. Drugar takes it seriously. This will perhaps lead to some problems in the future. We will see. Drugar now believes that Harry is possessed by a demon. The next morning, Drugar leaves the tent, finding Latruda already sitting at the campfire. Before Harry gets up and finds them, Drugar decides to tell them about the coin incident. Latruda doesn't seem too perturbed by it. Harry comes over and they end the conversation there, making some crude jokes about where Latruda was that night. They all have their breakfast. A couple more questions are asked, finding out the last little bit of information about how to create a shrine in order to talk with the Dreamweaver, and then they head out after grabbing some supplies from Laurel. Within those supplies, Laurel gives Drugar a talisman of protection, and then for the shrine, she gives them a tapestry, some candles, some incense, some tea, some items that might be useful in the shrine building as they're associated with the Dreamweaver specifically. They head out. They decide that they're going to walk until it is dark and then try to find somewhere good to set up a shrine. They do this. Fox ends up being the one to go off and find this glade with a rock in the middle of it because he rolled super high, which was really good for them. At first, they think that just Harry will sit inside the shrine, while Drugar and Latruda like kind of keep watch over him, but it turns out that while they're setting up this shrine, the beasts of the forest create a perimeter around them, and Drugar and Latruda are like, fuck it, I guess we're gonna go along on the ride as well, not knowing really what's going to happen. They all sit down in the shrine after they've set it up. They drink their tea, they sit, they wait, and then they fall asleep. Each of them has a little bit of a dream sequence. The first part, they are all alone. They each have the same sort of dream sequence where they're standing in a fog, they can't see anything. And then they start hearing their name being called by familiar voices. Each of them has friends show up. And as soon as those friends go to hug them, their friends disappear. Then they hear a booming voice of the Dreamweaver telling them something has gone wrong, and they've kind of been not necessarily chosen, but they might have the right mindset to help fix what has gone wrong. And then the Dreamweaver shows them what may happen if they don't. A rift opens up in front of them, mushrooms sprout from it. As quickly as those mushrooms sprout, they die and rot away. And there are 3 figures standing in front of them. At first, these figures have no form, but eventually these forms take shape. And each of them is what may be considered their biggest enemies. In front of Harry is Nicodemus, a foe from back on Earth. In front of Latruda is the sergeant, who they spoke about around the fire a few nights ago. And in front of Drugar is a large orc that itches in the back of his mind that he does know who this is, but he just can't put his finger on it. But there is a fear within him regarding this figure. They fight. This is the first real combat of the campaign, which is kind of nuts being that it is session 5. But they come out of it nearly unscathed. A few of them took a couple of hits, but they did very well. They come back out of their trance. They kind of chat about what transpired. They realize that they each kind of had the same dream and then ended up together, and they were all in the same fight. In addition to that, Latruda decides to speak with animals and chooses a raven that was part of the perimeter. They ask the raven if they know where the closest rift is and if they could give directions. The raven says instead, "Why don't I wait until morning and I'll take you there?" And that's where the session ended, so that's where the next will start. And I guess you'll just have to wait and see whether they find the rift, what they find at the rift, and what transpires afterwards. Hey, thanks for checking out Chicka D&D. If you liked what you saw, click all the buttons down below. Subscribe, like, comment, you know the drill. Also, it'd be really cool if you came and checked us out live at Chickadee93 on Twitch, where you get to participate in the conversation, or watch us play D&D on campaign days. Thank you again so much. See you next time. Bye.